AFCON is back and it's back with a banger. Morocco versus Comoros was such a wonderful match to watch. And if you probably didn't know about Comoros before, you probably expected Morocco to roll over them, but it just didn't happen like that. This game was peculiar in a kind of way. And I'm here to talk about it. If you missed the game, if you watched the game, just and you're looking for just more insights, yeah, you can stick around and watch this video. And if you want more insights into the AFCON, I'll be covering as many games as possible. I'm a jobless guy, so I'll be covering as many games as possible for your benefit. And you can subscribe, turn on post notification, and let's get into it.
I need your attention now.
Now, this game started really, really fast, and in the first, I think it was in the third minute, there was already a penalty. Even though that penalty, I believe that penalty wasn't a penalty. The foul before the foul that was actually blown as a penalty. How do I say? The if you watched that sequence, there was a foul leading to the foul that was actually blown for a penalty. That was probably more of a penalty shout than the actual foul that was given as the penalty. And immediately I was like, the ref was letting the crowd get into him, letting the shouts get into him, and I was wondering, is home advantage really going to play a big role in this match? But eventually the keeper came up with the goods and saved that penalty. It should have been really, really harsh, and if that penalty stood, it should have turned the match upside down from the very beginning. The keeper saving that penalty just showed like how AFCON is very, very unpredictable. How AFCON, like, you just can't predict it. And the commentator was saying the guy is a specialist in penalties. I don't really know much about Comoros. If you are not from Comoros, I don't think you know much about Comoros anyway. But I would take that with a pinch of salt, because the commentator was also the guy that said Morocco was the first African team to win a medal at the Olympics. And I was wondering, like, does Nigeria not exist anymore? Is Nigeria now part of Europe? Are we fucking Antarctica? I don't understand. But moving on from that, Size got injured around the 15th minute mark, and hopefully he's back soon. This Moroccan side are missing plenty leaders in their team, even though they still have a Nesri of the bench and Brahim Díaz right now. He's probably somebody that, because of his baby face, you look like this guy is probably just another player, but he's one of the leaders of the team. He plays for Madrid. He was their best player during qualification, so you have to consider him as one of the leaders of the team. And one of the things I noticed immediately the game started, like 10-15 minutes into the game, I wrote it down in my notes that Morocco will go as far as Brahim Díaz carries them. Brahim Díaz has to show up with the goods for this Moroccan team to perform. Before, it was Hakim Ziyech doing that work. He was the one that had that bit of like spontaneity, had that dribble in him, had that cross in him. Like, he just knew that if Hakim Ziyech was on the pitch, he was going to produce something, and that's what they needed from Brahim Díaz today, and that's probably what they are going to need from him moving forward into the competition. I think he scored seven goals or 9 goals or thereabouts in qualification, and somebody that has that amount of goals in qualification is probably going to be your most important player at the competition itself. The first half was pretty uneventful, and Morocco had so much of the ball. I was wondering, like, when is the goal going to come? When is the goal going to come? It felt inevitable. But even though it felt inevitable, there was a slight suspicion in me, like, what's going on? They had all the position. They had all the possession. What did I write in my note? I wrote they had most of the ball, but zero penetration. They were having to resort to crosses after some time, and those crosses were not accurate crosses. Very, very poor crosses in the first half. None of the crosses connected. And what happened in the second half? First 2 minutes of the second half, they produced an accurate cross, and that's what like eventually compiled until they got their goal. But we'll get to that later. And Bono had like so little to do from the fact that he has so much possession. I'll put up a screenshot of the possession stats and the stats overall for the first half. I'll put up a screenshot of it. But in that first half, with all that possession, they had only one shot on target, and it was nothing to write home about. At that point, I was wondering, like, Brahim Díaz, are you going to run away from the spotlight or something? Because even though he won that penalty, once again, that was not a penalty. The ref was probably under pressure from the fans or something. That was not a penalty. Even though he won that penalty, he had not done anything of note in that first half. He even got a yellow card. So I was beginning to have a little bit like of worry what's going on with this guy. Comoros also showed flashes of what they could do, and I feel like this game plan and handicap them a little bit. Their game plan was to come, try and defend and hit Morocco on the counter attack. But their striker Rafiki Said was so isolated. Like, the guy showed so much promise. I was like, this guy is probably going to be one of the revelations of the tournament. In the first half, when he showed those first few chances, I was like, if they feed this guy well, if they're able to put together some plays, this guy will probably be one of the revelations of the tournament. But they just left him up there. Anybody that went up to him, he had to dribble past 3 or 4 players, and a lot of times he actually did something with the ball. He won a foul here and there. He got off. I think he got 2 shots on target also. Was it 2 shots? But I know he shot twice. But in the first half or second half, but he got 2 shots off. Isolated against 4 defenders. That was something that they could have built on, but the game plan just handcuffed them for like the first 55 minutes. Before Morocco scored, the game plan had them in cuffs. And then when Morocco scored, they put together a few bits and pieces of play, but it was just too little too late for me. They made some substitutions to go more attacking, but it was beyond past the time that they could have done that. They should have started on the front foot, because I feel like they could have caused Morocco more problems than most people anticipated. And then came the second half, and my first notes that I wrote immediately the second half started was finally a good delivery. Like, throughout the first half, I was expecting, where are the good deliveries? Okay, you guys cannot penetrate, and that's a little bit on Brahim Díaz. Brahim Díaz is supposed to be good in these tight spaces. He's supposed to have these dribbles in him, but he didn't show any of that in the first half. And I understand that Brahim Díaz has not had a good season so far in Real Madrid. I watch him basically every week. When Xabi Alonso keeps trying to start, let me not rant about Xabi Alonso right now, but Xabi Alonso keeps trying to play this guy ahead of Hendrick, even though Hendrick looks like he's better than Brahim Díaz. But we're not talking about Madrid today, we're talking about AFCON. So let's move on. And Brahim finally showed up, and he popped up in the right place at the right time, and that's what you expect from a star player. It cannot be understated that Mazraoui did most of the work though. Mazraoui was able to control that bad delivery, another bad delivery again, but Mazraoui was able to control that ball, hold off defender, and put the ball in the box in the right spot where Brahim Díaz was. The midfielder that was behind Díaz was supposed to cover him. He was ball watching, but that's by the way. Díaz still has to put the ball in the net, and he put the ball in the net wonderfully. After the goal, the game finally opened up. Comoros finally came down, tried, like, they did some set plays in this match, and I was like, this is wonderful. Where was this? Like, the Yorubas have a saying like, where did you put name that you are bearing so and so? Like, you have something. Why do you need to show it? You have something that would probably have caused problems for Morocco. Like, Morocco would probably have thought twice about attacking you all out if they knew something was coming back. But when Comoros wins the ball, it's to Rafiki, and Rafiki is isolated against 3 players every single time. It just couldn't work like that. And when they put together a few passes, they were able to get to the box. They were able to like fashion out, like, just a sizing of goal was something for them, because in the first half they were basically toothless apart from Rafiki, which once again the guy showed flash. Like, that guy is somebody to keep an eye on if you are following the AFCON. He actually got a solid save out of Bono, and then Morocco forced the double save, the fantastic double save out of Pando. I can't, Jesus, the fantastic double save out of Pando. And that goalkeeper I think he had 5 saves in this match. He had a great game, but it's hard to say somebody had a great game when they considered 2 goals. So I don't really know how I'm going to classify that, but Comoros actually did better than most people would have expected. I expected it because I put them in one of my underdog teams in my last video when I was talking about teams to support. If you've not watched that video and you're still wondering who to support, go and watch that video. I'll link it up. Is it top left or top right? Anyway, but I'll link the video. And then came the goal. You've probably seen the clips on Twitter or somewhere, or TikTok or somewhere. That's goal. Where, like, when I watched the goal, I was thinking, like, how did he arrive to that conclusion in that spot? What was he thinking that made him look like, yeah, in this position, the best option for me is going to be a bicycle kick? Until after the game, I logged on Twitter and I saw a 3 minutes compilation of this guy scoring bicycle kicks. Like, how is a bicycle kick something that is in your bag, that is your go-to? Bicycle kicks are things that they are novel. That's why we raise them so highly. That's why it's always so wondrous when somebody scores a bicycle. But this guy has a 3 minutes compilation of bicycle kicks, and it's not easy bicycle, it's not the messy type of bicycle kick that is putting his hand on this floor. No, it's actual bicycle kicks. Like, bro, it was wonderful. And this is just what the AFCON is. First game of the whole tournament, and we already have probably the goal that will win the goal of the tournament. I know there will probably be like more contenders because it's AFCON. It's always going to deliver the unexpected. After that second goal, the match was basically just wraps. After that second goal, everything was done. And Comoros made some substitutions, like I said, and they played some good football. And I started wondering, like, maybe the nerves got to them, because that's probably the best explanation for it. Because you played good football, and they actually played good football at the qualifiers also. So I don't know, that was really puzzling. Hopefully in their coming games they are able to play their game and actually stop trying to do this defensive game, because you cannot defend for 90 minutes. It's very rare to see a team say they want to defend from minutes 1 to minute 90 and it succeeds. Maybe in like 100 matches, maybe 2 succeed. So it's based on statistics, that tactic just doesn't work. It would have worked better if they played their game and they weren't constantly on the back foot. The second goal, look at how that goal came about. Because they were on the back foot, they were passing it around at the back, they made a mistake. Morocco seized up on it and got that second goal. So yeah, that's really what happened at this game. Wonderful game. Please, if you love this content, if you want to see more AFCON content, I'm fully locked in on AFCON this period. European football can stay on one side. I'm fully locked in on AFCON content this period. Shorts, long form videos, everything. I have like a whole batch of AFCON contents coming out. So subscribe, smash the like button, share it with your friends, and turn on post notification. Yeah. Thank you for watching the video. Bye bye.